You've perfectly calculated your direct product costs. You're feeling really good about it. Everything balances.
Yeah, it's that brief moment of relief.
Right. But then the service center overheads hit.
Hmm.
And suddenly you're staring at simultaneous equations, trying to figure out how much the maintenance department owes the IT department.
And it feels completely overwhelming.
Totally. You're sitting there wondering if you accidentally enrolled in an advanced algebra course instead of like an accounting qualification. But today, we are going to crack the exact code examiners use to test this tangled web of costs so you never lose these crucial exam marks again.
Because it really is the ultimate puzzle. But,
Yeah.
Once you see the underlying logic, it stops being a trap and starts being just a toolkit.
Welcome to the deep dive. Whether you're listening on a crowded commute in London right now, or taking a quick lunch break in Singapore, or even studying late into the night, we are just so glad you're here. Today, our focus is squarely on the ACCA FMAMA Management Accounting paper. Specifically, we are tackling the reapportionment of service cost center costs.
Yeah, it's a critical topic. And honestly, it consistently trips people up in the exam hall.
Which is exactly why we're dedicating our time to it today. We're going to give you absolute clarity on how to untangle the direct, step-down, and reciprocal methods.
You'll be totally ready for whatever they throw at you.
Exactly. By the end of this, you are going to be completely exam-ready, knowing exactly how to navigate these calculations without a second thought. So let's just jump right in. What is this concept, really, in plain English?
Well, simply put, it's the process of taking the overhead costs from service departments like human resources or IT, which don't actually manufacture the final product, and fairly sharing them among the production departments that do.
Okay, so pushing the indirect costs down to the actual product lines.
Exactly. This ensures that every single product unit absorbs an appropriate share of the organization's total indirect costs based on, the time and effort it took to support its creation.
I always think of it like a massive group dinner. The production centers, the ones making the actual product, they are the people at the table actually eating the expensive steaks.
Right, they're the main event.
Yeah. But the service centers are like the shared appetizers for the table, the bottles of sparkling water, the mandatory gratuity. You have to figure out how to fairly divide that shared bill so everyone's final cost reflects what they truly consumed.
Without starting a massive fight at the end of the night.
Exactly, because if you just split that dinner bill evenly across everyone,
the person who only had a side salad ends up subsidizing the person who ate a giant steak.
which is infuriating.
It really is. And in business, if you don't allocate those shared service costs accurately, your final product cost is just a fiction. It's completely made up.
Wow, okay.
But the real mathematical headache isn't just that service centers support the production floor. The catch is that service centers often serve each other.
Oh, right. So taking that dinner analogy a step further, it's like you bought the appetizers for the table, but the person sitting across from you bought a round of drinks.
Yeah, exactly.
They're eating their food while they're drinking your drinks. Figuring out who owes who what suddenly creates this infinite loop of IOUs.
And that infinite loop of IOUs is exactly what examiners love to exploit. You aren't just figuring out who ate the appetizers.
Right.
You're figuring out how much of appetizer A was actually used to prepare appetizer B, while appetizer B was simultaneously being used to prepare appetizer A.
I look at this and I just think, why is this even on the syllabus? I mean, in an age of automated accounting software where computers can crunch millions of data points in a second, why are examiners so obsessed with making us do this by hand?
That is such a common question. But while software needs a human to program the underlying logic, modern global businesses are deeply interconnected.
So it's about understanding the mechanics behind the screen.
Exactly. A multinational's IT department supports HR, HR supports IT, and both support the manufacturing floor in 5 different countries. Examiners want to see if you can untangle real corporate complexity.
They aren't just testing your math skills then.
No, not at all. They're testing your ability to allocate costs accurately to find the true cost of a product unit in a messy, real-world environment. If you can't do this, you can't price your products correctly, you could be selling at a loss and not even know it.
And in the FMAMA exam, this usually appears as a really sharp, high-stakes, 2-mark question. It requires total precision, particularly focusing on the algebraic approach to reciprocal services.
Yeah, there's no hiding in these questions.
Right. It's not an essay question where you can kind of talk your way around the concept and get partial credit. You either have the exact numerical answer or you don't.
It is a very binary outcome for something that feels incredibly complex.
Because what's a management accounting exam without a surprise pop quiz in high school algebra.
Huh, I know it feels that way. But the algebra isn't there to punish you. It's there because it's the only clean way to cut through that interconnected complexity.
Okay, fair enough. Let's break down the 3 exact methods examiners will force you to use to solve these puzzles. Let's take them one at a time. The first one seems fairly straightforward, the direct method.
Yes, the direct method is definitely your best case scenario.
We just take the service center's total cost and push it straight into the production cost centers, like IT supports production, HR supports production, and we just ignore any cross-service entirely.
Exactly. Overheads are shared purely on the basis of usage percentages by the production departments. Simply put, you share the costs directly with production and ignore everything else.
Simply put, I like that. But the direct method has a massive blind spot, doesn't it? What happens when the IT department spends half its budget and time fixing the HR department's servers?
Right, that's the big flaw.
If you use the direct method, that massive chunk of effort just vanishes into thin air. It's not allocated properly at all. You need a way to sort of cascade those costs downward.
And that brings us to the step-down method. You use this when service centers help other service centers, but it's strictly a one-way street.
Okay, a one-way street. Give me an example of that.
So, for example, the IT department supports the maintenance team. They set up their computers. But the maintenance team never has to fix anything in the IT department.
Ah, okay. So we have a clear direction of flow.
Huh.
But if you have multiple service departments, how do we decide who goes first? Who gets a portion first?
There is a very strict rule for this. You must reapportion the costs of the center that serves the most other service centers first.
The most other centers. Got it.
You identify the one doing the most helping, and you empty its bucket of costs entirely, distributing those costs to both the production departments and the other service departments it helps.
Simply put, you empty the biggest bucket of costs first, and you step down. And once a bucket is empty, you seal it shut. You move to the next service center, which now contains its own original overheads, plus the slice it just received from the first center, and you empty that one. You never put costs back into a bucket you've already emptied?
You just cascade the costs downward until they all pool into the production departments.
Okay, that makes logical sense. But what if the help goes both ways?
And there's the catch.
Right. What if HR is recruiting for IT and IT is fixing computers for HR? Now we have a loop. If you empty IT's bucket into HR, but HR also serves IT, you'd have to throw some of HR's costs back into the IT bucket you just sealed shut.
Yep.
The step-down method completely breaks down here.
It does. It can't handle it.
Yeah.
And then you have arrived at the reciprocal method. This is used when service centers help each other reciprocally. The step-down method fails because it just can't handle that infinite loop.
Okay, let me push back on this for a second, though. Isn't there a repeated distribution method for this?
Well, yes.
Where you just pass the costs back and forth, like emptying IT, then emptying HR, then emptying the little bit that went back into IT until the numbers get so small they practically disappear. Why do we need algebra if we could just do that?
You're right. The repeated distribution method is perfectly valid mathematically. It literally simulates that endless ping-pong game of costs until the remaining fractions of a dollar are just too small to care about.
Right. So why not use it?
Because in an exam setting, it is a massive trap. It is incredibly time-consuming. You are doing calculation after calculation, tracking tiny decimals across multiple columns.
Ah, the clock is ticking.
Exactly. Algebra, specifically setting up simultaneous equations, is the examiner's true test. Simply put, you use simultaneous equations to freeze the endless loop and calculate the true cost instantly.
I love that. So instead of playing a 10-round game of ping pong with the decimals and risking a silly calculator error on round 7, you use algebra to freeze the loop.
The algebraic approach gives you the precise answer without all those endless iterations.
Okay, let's take all of this theory and ground it in a global, real-world example. I want you to really picture this scenario. Imagine a growing multinational company.
Okay, setting the scene.
Let's say they have 2 production cost centers. Call them Factory V and Factory W. These are the locations actually manufacturing the goods.
The ones making the actual money.
Right. And they have 2 service cost centers. Let's say Global IT, which we'll call X, and Human Resources, which we'll call Y. Now, IT provides 10% of its services to HR.
Okay, so IT sets up computers for the HR team.
Exactly. But HR provides nothing to IT. Let's say HR does not recruit for IT in this specific quarter.
Oh, perfect. This is a classic step-down method scenario. It's a one-way street between the service centers. IT serves HR, but HR doesn't serve IT.
Now, depending on who you are in this company, this calculation means something very different. If you are listening to this as an early career junior analyst,
Yeah.
you just need to calculate the exact overhead cost to charge to a single unit product coming out of Factory V so your manager doesn't reject your spreadsheet on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, you need the mechanics to be absolutely flawless.
Right. But if you are a senior professional, say a regional director, you are looking at the overall profitability of the goods from Factory V versus Factory W.
Which is a whole different ballgame. If you misallocate a massive $10,000 block of costs from the HR department, you might think the goods from Factory V are way more expensive to produce than they actually are.
Which means you might accidentally price a highly profitable product completely out of the global market because your indirect cost data was just garbage.
It's definitely not just a math problem, it's a strategic pricing issue.
So let's walk through the math efficiently. Let's look at the starting numbers. Picture them on a whiteboard. Factory V, our production floor, starts with $6,000 of its own overhead.
Got it.
Global IT, our X bucket, has $4,000, and HR, our Y bucket, has $10,000.
Okay, so remember our rule for the step-down method. Because IT serves HR, but HR doesn't serve IT. IT is the one doing the most serving. So we must clear out IT's bucket first.
Okay, so we take IT's entire $4,000 and we share it out based on usage. The scenario says HR gets 10% of IT services. So 10% of $4,000 is $400. We pour that $400 into HR's bucket.
Right, and now IT's bucket is completely empty. It's at zero, and we seal it shut.
Sealed shut.
HR originally had $10,000. We just added $400 from IT. So HR's new total overhead to reapportion is $10,400.
Okay, now we step down. We move to HR. Our goal is to figure out Factory V's final cost. Let's say the data tells us that HR spends 80% of its time serving Factory V.
Perfect. So we take 80% of HR's new updated total. That's 80% of the $10,400. When you calculate that, Factory V receives $8,320 from HR.
All right, let's bring it all together for Factory V. Factory V started with its original $6,000.
Right.
It also received its own 60% shared directly from IT earlier in the process, which is $2,400. And we just calculated it received $8,320 from HR. So $6,000 plus $2,400 plus $8,320 equals a final total overhead for Factory V of $16,720.
Spot on. And that number, $16,720, is the only correct answer.
Yeah.
Let's connect this directly back to the ACCA exam. This exact step-by-step logic, knowing fundamentally that you have to start by clearing out IT instead of HR, is exactly what separates a passing multiple-choice answer from a failing one.
Because if you did it the other way around.
Oh, if you had started by clearing out HR first, you would have calculated an entirely different, incorrect final number for Factory V. And I guarantee you the examiner will make sure that incorrect number is waiting for you as option A or option B on the exam.
That is brutal. The examiners know exactly which traps you'll fall into. Which brings us to a really crucial part of this deep dive. What students get wrong.
Yeah, let's get into it.
When it comes to the reciprocal method, the one where the service departments serve each other in that infinite loop, what is the single biggest mistake people make in the exam hall?
The single biggest mistake is getting bogged down using that repeated distribution approach we talked about earlier. As we discussed, it is mathematically valid, but it is a massive tactical error under time pressure.
So why does it happen so often? Why do people default to playing ping pong with decimals if it's so incredibly risky?
Because it feels more intuitive to our human brains. It feels like you are doing real accounting. You shift a percentage to Department C, then you shift the remainder to D, then back to C, then back to D.
Right, you're following the flow of the money.
Exactly. It feels logical to just follow the flow of money back and forth continuously, rather than setting up an abstract algebraic equation. People trust the iterative arithmetic more than they trust their high school algebra.
But time is your enemy in these exams. You can't spend 15 minutes on a 2-mark question. So how do we fix it? How do we make the algebra make sense conceptually so we actually use it?
You fix it by understanding what the algebra is actually doing behind the scenes. When you set up the simultaneous equations, let's say you write down that the total cost of Department C equals its initial $10,000 plus 5% of Department D.
Okay, C equals 10,000 plus 0.05D.
Right. The variable C doesn't represent the starting cost. The C represents the ultimate final total cost of that department after the infinite ping pong game has already finished.
Oh, okay. Let me make sure I'm getting this. By setting the equations equal to each other, you're basically jumping to the end of the timeline.
Yes,
You
exactly.
aren't calculating every single pass of the ball. You're just calculating the final score.
That is the aha moment right there. You substitute the equation for D into the equation for C. You multiply out the bracket, collect the terms on one side of the equal sign, and solve for C.
And once you have C, you just plug that exact number back in to find D.
It is faster, it is exact to the decimal, and it is precisely what those FMAMA 2-mark questions demand.
I love that. Leave the endless infinite loops to sci-fi time travel movies. In the exam hall, we use substitution, find the exact decimal, and move on with our lives.
Exactly. 2 marks secured, on to the next question. It is entirely about efficiency and confidence.
We are nearing the end of our deep dive, which means it is time for your exam edge. We've pulled together 3 sharp, specific tips straight from the examiner's mindset to give you an unfair advantage.
These are the game changers.
Tip number 1, the going in, going out rule.
This is your ultimate safety net. To check that you haven't made any arithmetic errors during all these apportionments, always verify your totals.
How does that work?
Well, the total overhead going in across all departments at the very beginning must exactly equal the total overhead going out to the production centers at the very end. If you started with $214,000 across 5 departments, your final production departments must total exactly $214,000.
Right.
If they don't, you've dropped a number somewhere in your calculator.
It's like the conservation of mass, but for money.
Yeah.
I like it. Tip number 2, identify the most serving center first.
When you are faced with a step-down method question, don't just start calculating from left to right like you're reading a book.
Right. Don't just go on autopilot.
Scan the data table immediately. Find the service cost center that serves the most other service centers and reapportion it first. The order is everything. Getting the order wrong guarantees the wrong final answer.
Tip number 3, spot the algebraic trigger.
Examiners use very specific language. If the question asks for a method that, and I quote, fully reflects the reciprocal services involved, that is your cue.
Fully reflects.
Yes, that phrase is a neon sign. Immediately write down A equals and B equals and use algebraic substitution. Do not hesitate. Do not start a repeated distribution table. Just build the equations.
Fully reflects means algebra. Lock that in your brain right now. Now, as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a bit of a confidence builder depending on where you are in your journey. If you're tackling this level of management accounting for the first time, don't let the simultaneous equations intimidate you.
Yeah, please don't let it panic you.
I know it looks like alphabet soup at first glance, but it's just a mathematical recipe. Practice the steps, set up the equation, substitute, multiply out, solve, and it never changes. Once you have the recipe memorized, you can execute it perfectly every single time.
And for the seasoned professionals tuning in, the ones balancing demanding work schedules with your study mastering, this isn't just about passing an exam. It means you'll return to your desk on Monday with a razor-sharp understanding of how your company's internal costs are truly driving the bottom line.
Yeah, that's huge.
You will be the person in the room who understands why a product's margin is suddenly shrinking, because you can trace the hidden web of service center costs better than anyone else.
So the next time you're staring down those simultaneous equations, remember, you aren't just doing high school math. You are untangling the true cost of doing business. You are bringing clarity to corporate chaos.
It forms the absolute backbone of strategic decision-making.
Here is your punchy takeaway for today, the one sentence to keep echoing in your mind as you walk into that exam hall. Allocate with logic, step down with purpose, and let algebra break the endless loops. We want to say a massive thank you to you for listening. We know that studying for the ACCA syllabus is incredibly rigorous.
It is a massive undertaking.
You are balancing a demanding career, family, and a real life while pushing through some genuinely tough material. Your dedication to your professional growth is impressive, and it's a privilege to be a small part of your study routine.
Keep pushing. The hard work absolutely pays off when everything finally clicks into place.
If you found this breakdown helpful, please hit that follow button on Spotify or wherever you are listening right now. And if you have 30 seconds, leaving a review helps us reach more students and professionals just like you. Keep practicing those equations, trust the logic, and you will absolutely nail this topic. Thank you for listening.